Here we are on the front of our Jayco Precept. We are going to do a technical walkthrough or tutorial on your unit, just like you would get on the data delivery, walking you through the items on it, a little bit of how-tos on the different items. If you want a deeper dive on these components or you have other questions about it, feel free to leave it in the comments section, or you can check out our other videos in the helpful hacks section of our Great American RV YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, share, and comment and support the channel. We want to start on the front here, of course, under our hood. Here we're going to have our engine access. We'll go ahead and disconnect you there so we can take a quick look. Just like you would have on any other vehicle, we're going to have all of our engine components in here. Now, main thing we want to show you is we do have our 12-volt battery under here. Now, this one is going to be just for our chassis and some of the components that feed off of that. We do have a couple of 12-volt breakers under there. We have our coolant right here, our engine oil, as well as our transmission fluid right there, our air cleaner, brake fluid. That's pretty much it. Windshield wiper fluid under there. So regular maintenance to be done on your engine, just like any other vehicle. That is customer maintenance, and we do need to monitor that and maintain those components regularly. All right, moving down the line on our driver's side, we'll notice we have cameras built into our side mirrors that'll activate with our blinkers. We'll go over that on the inside when we hit our monitors. Go over our storage compartments here. First compartment is just storage. Second compartment, just storage. It'll be a pass-through right there. We'll put larger tables and stuff. Third compartment, another pass-through. And then we have our generator. Let's take a closer look at that. All right, here we have our Yamaha generator. On the front here, we can see we have our start and stop button. Now here on the outside, we can also operate this from the inside, but we'll go over the controls out here first. So start, stop. Our stop is also a prime button. So it's a gas generator. It's going to pull off of your fuel tank for your chassis. And we hold down that stop button, and what it's doing is kicking on the fuel pump. It is now priming the engine and preparing it to start. That prime is very necessary in the colder months and prepping that unit to get ready to start. So once it is primed up, we hold down that start button and it will crank up. Now we do have a meter right here that's going to give us our hours on the generator, so that's your run time. Our maintenance is based on the hours on that generator, so we need to refer to our owner's manual as far as when we need to change the oil, change the air filter, and do other maintenance. Once again, customer maintenance, you will need to pay to have all that stuff done if you don't do it yourself. Now we're also going to have a couple of lights up here, AC1, AC2, and fault, and then our oil light, AC1, AC2, are going to be our loads. That's the power output, so it's going to indicate and let you know when those loads are good. And then a fault light, of course, is going to let us know, hey, we have a fault. Oil light would be that we have low oil or it needs to be checked. Now we can remove this cover off of here, gain access to some of our components in here for maintenance. When we run this generator, we need to make sure that this cover is on. That way the airflow goes properly and this engine doesn't overheat. Now in here in our bottom corner right here, we do have an on-off master switch for our 12 volts. We'll disconnect you there so we can take a closer look. So we see that switch off to the left, that is 12 volt master off and on. So basically it shuts down power to our generator, and to the right of it, we have our breaker. So that breaker is a 12 volt breaker. So that would basically be controls as far as starting and stopping this unit. So if we have no 12 volts, we need to check that on off switch first and then check and make sure that 12 volt breaker is not tripped. We're also going to have a power mode over here to the side, 2600 or 2900 as far as the output for that generator. Then on the left side, we're going to have our 30 amp breakers. So we talked about two loads, AC1, AC2. This is a dual pole generator, so we're going to be putting out two legs of 110. And in the event that they trip, of course, this is where we're going to come to reset it. So you would basically be running your generator and then notice that we don't have any power on the inside of our unit. We have checked our breakers on the inside and everything seems okay. We want to come out here and check these two breakers right here and make sure they're not tripped. If they are, shut down some of the appliances on the inside of your unit, come out here, reset them, and then kick them back on, and that should take care of the problem. Your oil dipstick over there to the left right there, so we can check our oil and make sure we have the proper level as well. All right, moving on from our generator, we have our next bay, which is going to be where our tank system is. So we have a black tank, which is going to signify by this black valve right here, and then our gray tank right here. Now the difference between those two is black tank is going to be our sewage from our toilet. Gray tank is going to be shower and sink water. So from your kitchen sink, your bathroom sink, and your shower. And then once again, black tank from our toilet. Our outlet right here is where we'll hook our sewer hose up to, and that'll go to the port at the campground. Now this is movable, so we can station it however we wish for our sewer hose. Now let's go over the dumping procedure for our gray tank. As long as we have our hose hooked up and ran to the sewage port at the campground, we can leave that gray water open all the time and just let it drain out. Our black tank, however, that being sewage, we need to make sure that we keep this valve closed until we're ready to dump. When we're ready, reason being is we're putting solids in there, toilet paper, stuff like that. That stuff can dry up if we don't leave water in that tank. So by leaving that open, the water drains out, all that stuff dries up, and it's a big mess. So we always want to keep water in there by keeping that valve closed. Now we're ready to dump. We have our line hooked up to our sewage port, pull that handle, let everything drain out. We'll go over in a little while where our black tank flush is, but while this is draining out, you'll hook a water hose up to that black tank flush, turn it on. That is going to lead water to the other side of our tank here to a jet port that's going to spray any debris that's in there down to this valve and help rinse out that tank. When we are satisfied with our flush, we turn that black tank flush off. We come over here, we close our valve, go to the toilet on the inside, hold down the pedal, put several gallons of fresh, clean water in there, and then add our chemicals. While we're traveling down the road, the little bit of debris that'll be left in that tank will kind of wash down with the water that's in that tank. Now we do have some other procedures and pro tips for black tank flush can be found in our helpful hacks section of our Great American RV YouTube channel. You might want to check that out for a little more information. Moving on down the line, we have our next compartment right here. This is our controls for all of our water system. This is the black tank flush we just spoke about here. We're going to talk about all that stuff in just a minute, but we're going to peek down here. This is where our low point drains are. This is our hot and our cold. We'll use this when we start talking about winterization up here. That's where that kicks in. You can refer to your owner's manual for a little more information on winterization, or check out our videos on helpful hacks. This blue line right here is going to be for our fresh tank, which will be our onboard storage for our unit. Once again, we'll talk about how to fill that up there. But this is where you drain that tank out. Only take what you need, a little bit more, whatever, but don't leave it in there for an extended period of time. You're storing your unit, drain that water out so it doesn't become stagnant. You don't want to do that. Plus you're adding extra weight to your unit, so if you don't need it, just drain it out. Last thing under here is going to be your filtration system. You can see two valves on each side. If your system is pressurized because your water pump is on or your city water connection is on, you want to change that filter out, what you got to do is just turn these knobs right here, the valves, make them close, then open this up. Otherwise that system is going to be pressurized. You're going to have water all over the place. So just keep that in mind. If you're not pressurized, you can go ahead and just pop it off of there with no problem. Let's take a look at our water control system right now. All right, so we have our water control system right here at the top, satellite cable for your cable connections going into your camper. Have a city water connection here, black tank flush right here. The black tank flush is going to go over how we kind of clean out our black tank, which is our sewage tank. We'll get to that when we get to the dump valves. Our city water connection is going to be where we hook our water up from our campsite if we have a water bib there, or from our house. And that'll supply water to our fixtures on the inside of the unit. It can also fill our tank, so on and so forth, but that's where that hose connection would go. Of course, we have our hot and cold. We have a quick connect here for that blue coiled hose, so on. So let's talk about our fixtures up here. Our dry camping. In order, if we have that fresh tank filled up, in order to get to dry camping, we would have to go to this configuration right here, and that would pull water from that tank and supply it to our water fixtures. But we would have to kick on our water pump right here. Our water pump is 12 volt activated, and it will go ahead and prime our unit, and then keep running as long as we are in demand for it, and turn our faucet off. That pump will shut off shortly after. So just keep that in mind. You're going to hear it vibrating, perfectly normal. It's supplying water to us. But if we're certain that all of our fixtures are off and you hear that system vibrating and pumping, we need to go check our system, because one of two things: we're out of fresh water in our tank, or we have a leak in our system and water is going somewhere. So at which point we want to go ahead and shut this off and check those two things. From there, we'll jump over to our power fill tank, which is how we would fill that freshwater tank. So we would need a water source, so that would mean a water hose from the campground or from your house, whatever. We would go to power tank fill, that option right there, and then turn that water on, and that will begin to fill that tank. So we can monitor that from the inside with that monitor in there, or to make sure we don't overfill it. If we do overfill it, it's okay. We do have an overfill hose on that tank that spits the water out on the ground. So if you see water everywhere, I'm gonna come over here, shut it off, because that tank is full. We also have our city water connection. So this is if we have water at the campground or we're using it at our house, whatever, we would turn to this configuration, turn the city water on, supplies water straight to our fixtures. So if we're using that, we want to turn our water pump off. We don't want to have that on while we have city water hooked up, because there's just no need for it. It supplies pressure to have it. There's just no need to have it on, so just shut it off. We have winterize and sanitize. We'll kind of talk about those in sequence. These are our two different valve setups. So winterization is when we are prepping our unit for wintertime. Extreme cold temperatures, we're pumping RV antifreeze into our unit. Sanitize is if we are sanitizing our fixtures on our unit with a mixture of bleach and water. Both of them have a similar process, just different valve configurations, because this one is going into our tank, this one is going into our fixtures, okay? So with the exception of where they're going, the process is the same as far as how we use it. We would hook a water hose up to this. We would cut the other end off and run it into a tank of RV antifreeze, kick our water pump on, and that would supply it to our fixtures if we're under winterization. If we are doing sanitizing our system via the tank, then we do the same thing, water hose here, then the other end goes into a bucket of bleach and water solution, kick our water pump on, it sucks it out of there, supplies it to our fresh tank. Then from there, we can turn our fresh tank pump on, go to dry camp, then it would supply it to our fixtures. So which way you go. If we do winterize, that's where our low point drains come in to check. We need to open those up, drain all the water out of our system. There are more steps into winterization. You can find it in your owner's manual or a video under Hap's Helpful Hacks. That wraps up everything on our water control system here. Oh, and the little red switch right here is for our light up top. Moving down the line, we have our next and last compartment on this side with our 50 amp service twist lock plug. So that twist lock goes in there, twists to the right, locks in, then you have a little retainer ring on there that helps keep it locked in, keeps it from dropping out of there. No gaps, no arcing, nothing like that. So we want to plug this in first and then plug it into our shore power at the campsite, because we don't want any arcing at this plug, so we don't want it powered up before we go to plug it in. It's also a good idea to have any appliances like your AC turned off before you plug and unplug this system. Then from that point, we go ahead and plug it into our shore power like I said. We have that hole down at the bottom to feed that through. Rather than having to feed all this stuff back in that way, you can just twist, unlock here, drop it through the hole, reel it up, and then just toss it in there, because it's kind of a pain to have to pull it all back up through that hole. That's why they put that twist lock there, for a little more convenience. Lastly, we'll see that twist cap right there. That is going to obviously be for our gas, for our engine, and our generator. Now up top, I'll show you on that first slide out, you're gonna have a vent up there. That is gonna be over your 3-burner stove, and that is where you'll have your hood vent. It can go ahead and ventilate out while you're cooking. We noticed 2 tabs on there. We'll have to pop those 2 tabs open in order for that air to actually ventilate out. You can go ahead and snap them back closed when in storage to keep bugs, insects, so on and so forth from building any nest in there. Here on the back of our unit, of course, we have our backup camera mounted up there so we can see while we're driving down the road, what's behind us or when we're backing up. We're also going to have our receiver hitch with our 7-way plug, put a trailer, towing car, whatever the case may be, back here behind you. We're also going to have our factory supply ladder to lead us to access on the roof, which is very important because we need to check the sealing around all of our vents up there. We do have a fiberglass roof up there. You're going to have little crank vents, other objects up there that have sealant around them, and you need to check that sealant every 60 to 90 days. Same thing on all of our trim around our front, back cap, windows, compartments, all that stuff. Anywhere where you see sealant on your unit, every 60 to 90 days, customer maintenance. You need to get out there or bring it to a shop and have it checked out for any cracking, peeling, deterioration. You need to clean it and reseal it. This is, once again, customer maintenance. Manufacturers don't cover that type of repair. It's like changing the oil in your vehicle, right? So we want to stay on top of that because otherwise we're going to allow water entry into our unit, damage our unit. Manufacturers don't participate in that type of repair. So I don't care if you keep it under a cover, anything, whatever the case may be, you need to check that sealant on a regular basis so we're not allowing water in and we're protecting our unit. We also need to get up on that roof and clean it every now and again. It will accumulate some dirt, everything. It makes it a little bit easier to keep your unit clean when we clean our roof on a regular basis as well. All right, moving on to our passenger side. Once again, another camera built into that side mirror that will activate. We have our first compartment right here. In here, you'll see this little T-handle tool right here. What that's for is to pull the little simulator center caps off of our aluminum rims. So we'll notice an indentation right there on certain lug nuts. You're not going to see it on other ones, but on 3 of these, you're going to see that on there. Those are the ones that actually come off. That's what this T-handle is for. You rotate that off, pull those off, then you can pull that center cap off and gain access to your actual lug nuts to be able to remove that tire. So keep that in mind. That's what that tool is for. Our next compartment is going to be more pass-through bay access. Next compartment, same thing right there. And our third compartment on this side, or sorry, fourth, is going to be where all of our 12-volt stuff is for our house side. So we talked about that in the front. We have our chassis battery there under the hood. Here we have our 12-volt battery for our house, which is going to operate our 12-volt components, our lights, our awning, stuff like that. Now we can notice these are sealed batteries, so no maintenance here like the one under your hood. The one under the hood, you need to check the water on it every so often, make sure the water is above the plate level. So that's where that 12-volt battery supply is. We have our propane tank right there. We have our empty full gauge that lets you know what the current status is. Our valve right here that's going to turn that tank off and on. Our regulator is mounted under this plastic cover. These 2 components are going to be used when filling, so you won't have to worry about those, but you have a quick connect up here. At quick connect, pull that cap off and put the male quick connect in there for a gas grill or anything like that, but this is going to have to be turned off. So the valve off, you hook your quick connect in there, then you turn it back on for flow. It also won't allow you to connect or disconnect anything with that system turned on. So when you go to disconnect it, got to turn it off again in order to disconnect that quick connect. Now we're also in here going to have a lot of 12-volt stuff in here. We have 12-volt breakers. These with the red caps right here are thermal breakers, so they're going to heat up due to over amperage. They will trip and automatically reset themselves, so those will be automatic. But we'll see these other ones with these little blue buttons right here. That blue button is a test button. See it tripped out, that little yellow tab right there, that shows that it is tripped. So these can either trip on their own or you can test them by pushing that button, but to reset them, just push that yellow lever back up in there. That's going to operate several different components on your unit. So if you have any issues with 12-volt stuff, this is one of the places to go. We have another one on the inside. Here is our battery disconnect. We'll talk a little more about that on the inside where the switch is, but know that that is an electric disconnect. That's where that is going to be. Above that compartment is going to be our Dometic furnace, 12-volt powered, gas operated. We'll talk more about that when we get to our thermostat on the inside. We have our Connects TV out here, which is Bluetooth, has radio, it's a smart TV, all that stuff. Have a video on our Haps Helpful Hacks section that goes over the operation of a Connects TV. Down below that, we're going to have more storage and our main control board for our 30 amp solar controller. So this is going to basically change our solar power into charging power for our battery system, because of course we do have solar up there. We'll go over the monitoring of that on the inside when we get to our touchscreen panel. Lastly, on here we have our 110 and gas operated Dometic water heater right here. We'll go over the operation of that on the inside. Down below we'll see a tag for a low point drain. We'll see that along the frame there. We can open that up and prep it for winterization. Once again, more information on winterization in our Helpful Hacks videos or in your owner's manual. Now we do have our awning up here. Our awning is sunshade mainly, okay? If we're gonna keep it out during a little light drizzle and stuff, that's fine, but water can accumulate in the middle of this awning, so we wanna make sure we pitch it or tilt it from one side to the other. We do that with the little tabs right up there on our awning arm. We squeeze those together and we pitch that awning arm down, shift it down so that rainwater can run off of there. We may have some condensation from our AC gets up there, so on and so forth. We want all that stuff to be able to get off of our awning. If we're leaving our unit for an extended period of time, it's best to roll that thing in so you don't come back to any kind of disasters. Also, if you know a storm's coming in, winds pick it up, anything like that, roll that thing in so you don't end up with an insurance claim before it's all said and done, because manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair due to negligence. Last thing we're going to talk about all outside before we go inside is our steps. Electric steps, 12 volt powered. You can turn them off and on. Now, if you're camping, you don't want your steps to go in and out, go ahead and turn it off. Those steps will stay out when you open and close this door. If you do want them to go in and out, turn that switch on, steps will go in and out. Now, if you turn them off and you forget to kick them back on whenever you're ready to hit the road, close the door, the steps are still out. When you kick your ignition on, it's automatically gonna send power to those steps and tell them to retract as long as this door is closed. As we walk in our entry door, we'll see our switch for that 12 volt disconnect we talked about in our battery compartment. What that does is basically it disconnects our batteries, right? We use this whenever we are storing our unit unplugged so we can save the power on our 12 volt batteries. We click that, this red light will turn off and it'll conserve the power. Now there are a few components that'll still pull off the batteries, so you don't want to leave it unplugged for a very long time, otherwise those batteries are still going to end up dead. Anytime we're using our unit plugged in, operating while we're traveling down the road, whatever, have that disconnect on so of course we can use our appliances on the inside, but really important when we're running a generator or plugged in, because our converter system will actually be charging that battery. If we're not connected on this disconnect, the converter is not going to be powering and charging that battery. Here we have that power step on off we talked about outside, and then we have our first little control pad right here. We have our ceiling lights, our accent, awning, porch lights. Everything you see with the little arrows right there, if you hold down on that button, those lights are actually dimmable. They'll dim down, keep holding it down, the brightness will come back up. We have our extend and retract for our awning, and then of course our light master off and on. That's just a quick switch for all of our interior lights and stuff there. All right, we're gonna hop into our captain's seat right here. We have our equalizer system right here. We power it up. Now this is gonna tell you if there's any errors right now. We don't have any, so your emergency brake needs to be engaged. Your ignition actually needs to be off, so if this light is lighting up, it means your ignition's on. Excessive slope is gonna mean that your unit, as the pad, is at too much of a slope and you basically just don't have enough height on your jacks to get that unit level. Low voltage obviously means your batteries are low. Operating is going to mean that that system is currently doing whatever function you requested. Now the simplest thing to do is hit auto level, let this system do its thing, and don't move around a lot inside your unit, otherwise it will throw off the leveling system. Once it's complete, it'll beep at you and shut off. We do have our all retract button right here. Whenever you're ready to hit the road, hold down all retract and those jacks will go ahead and lift up and retract from your system. Now if you let this system sit for a little while, you come in your unit, when you crank your ignition up, you will have a little beeping alarm on here because it will drop down in pressure. All you have to do is come over here, hit all retract, and that system will go ahead and repressurize, and that alarm will shut off. We do have Bluetooth function on here. If you download the app for that EQ system, you can go ahead and link it to your phone and be able to operate some of this stuff from there. Moving on, we have our controls for our power mirrors right there on the side, USB port right there, our light functions just like any other Ford model would have. Also have mirror heat, fog lights, accent lights, and battery boost. A battery boost is basically a set of jumper cables that goes from your house batteries to your chassis batteries. So if your chassis battery is dead, you can hold down that function and it will basically connect those sets of batteries together to where it'll give your boost on the chassis side to be able to crank that engine up. We have our controls here to go ahead and change on the Ford programming up there as far as what you see on that screen, our cruise controls, all that stuff, all factory from Ford. We're also going to have our hazard lights, our traction control system off, so that's to be able to shut that system down. Then we have our radio system right here. So if we hit our home button here at the top, it's going to bring us to our main screen with our radio, Sirius, Bluetooth, all that stuff. Most people are going to ask, how do I get into Bluetooth? Hit that Bluetooth, hit connect, and then we're going to search for that device. It'll give us the directions here on how to hook that up. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android on this system to be able to display your phone stuff up on that screen. USB would be if you have any music or anything you want to go ahead and put in there, you would go ahead and put it in the USB on here and that would bring that up on there. Our settings brings us through some different device connections and everything. We can go ahead and add our phone and stuff through there as well. We have sound, other applications that we can download and so on. We're not going to take too deep a dive into that. If we go into our apps, we have our rear camera, our side cameras. Now our side cameras are going to activate when we turn our blinkers on. That'll go ahead and pop up here on the screen. Our rear camera will be active. If we just go to that, it can display what's behind us while we're traveling, but it'll also kick on whenever we hit reverse. Get back, we go to that home screen, and that's pretty much everything that we can show you on the radio. We have our track skip up here or changing your radio station volume, so on and so forth. Not much more to go over with that. Down below we have lights for overhead right there. We have our accent lights once again. We have our generator start and stop. Now it's going to work the same way. We can hold down that stop button to prime our generator, then hold down the start to start it. We have our up and down for our front shade right there. In the front for more privacy, and of course our AC controls just like any other Ford model. So both of your captain's chairs can spin around. You have a latch on the right hand side. You grab that latch, push it to the rear, and then you can spin around. Now you might have to adjust your seat up or something like that with your controls on the side to be able to spin all the way around and avoid that wall. Same thing with your driver's seat. A little bit harder because of course you have your steering wheel and stuff in the way. And that latch is right here at the bottom, just a little post sticking out. Grab it, push it to the rear, and that will unlatch it. You want to put it back, get out of that seat, and you can go ahead and spin it back around. Make sure that it locks in. We have our bunk area above our seats here. We do have a little seat belt up here. That is a safety device in case something fails to keep that system from falling. We have our switch here with a key, unlock it, and then we can drop it down. When it's locked, you can pull that key out, keep kids from messing around with stuff. You just drop it down. Of course, we have our bed space. We do have a ladder in the back to connect to here to gain access to that. We also have a little light switch right here next to that key switch that will turn that light off and on. That light will automatically turn off once this bed starts to rise, so it will stay off, not make things too hot up there. When we lift our bed back up, we need to make sure that we go ahead and put that seat belt back in place as that secondary safety device for our driver and passenger. All right, our dinette booth can add more sleeping space as well. We would move these cushions out of the way. We lift our table from this end right here. We pull it towards us and it disconnects it from that bracket right there. We can drop them down, put our cushions back down over the top of it, take these back cushions, put them on top, and we have more sleeping space. To put it back, we lift it up, push it back towards the wall, still at an angle, and then we drop it in. There's little claw teeth back there that slip in some holes to be able to hold that table to that wall. Besides that, we have our TV lift. This is operated by a little motor, our up and down switch right there that will run that TV up and down. You have two options for your TV. it is going to be cable and antenna. So if we're working off a cable, we're pulling off the cable channels there at the campground, in which case we'll scan for channels right there. And then we need to make sure that we have our antenna boost off, which that green light right there, that'll be the switch to the left, indicates that it's on. So want that light off, scan for our cable channels, and then we'll have that popped up from the campground. But if we're using the antenna, push that button in, make sure the light turns on, and then we have an antenna boost. Then we scan for antenna channels. That'll help pick up more channels in our area as long as that's on. You're going to have another button off to the right. That one is going to be for Wi-Fi. If you decided to upgrade and install that WineGuard router system, it's also available to be a Wi-Fi booster from the campground, or you can subscribe to a cellular network, have Wi-Fi service with you wherever you go, and that, of course, that would be a monthly subscription. We have our two LNB satellite coax ports right here. We are pre-wired to the roof. We want to add a satellite up there, run that to your receiver, then you can plug your HDMI right here into that receiver and have satellite channels to your TV. We can also have our DVD player hookup right here, PlayStation, whatever you want. Got 110 outlets right there towards the rear, and that's pretty much it for the TV system. In our kitchen area, we have our 110 microwave. We do have that built-in fan for the hood range. When we talked about the vent outside, we need to open that up in order for it to actually ventilate out. We have our Furrion 3-burner stove right here. This is that glass cooktop. You can have more counter space. This is also how it needs to be when we travel, so that glass doesn't fall and break. We go to use it, we want to flip that up, have access to our burners. We turn our propane on outside, come over here, and we can light our stove. Now we have a little green, little flame right there on that knob. We turn our designated burner to that flame, crank until it lights up. Once it lights, cook, ready to roll, shut it off. Once it lights, turn it to high, low, wherever you want it. You cook, ready to go, shut it off whenever you're done. Notice that little red ring that lights up around that knob, letting you know gas is being emitted out from that burner. It's good because kids like to play with stuff. It's a good indicator, hey, that system's on, I need to turn it off. Now, one thing about propane is you can end up with air in your system, either because you ran out of propane in your tank and you got it refilled, or whenever you stored it, you turn that tank off, which is perfectly normal, in which case you turn it back on, you're going to end up having air in that system. Real simple solution to all that. Come over here, you turn your propane on, you light your stovetop. It's going to take a little bit longer to go ahead and light it right off the back because you're bleeding that air out of that system, but you want to come do that before you operate things like your furnace and your water heater on propane, because those things will go into a fault because there's so much air in the system. It's trying to light and it'll just go into a fault because there's nothing there to light. And you have to turn it off, reset it, start it over again. So easiest thing to do is come over here, bleed the air out. You won't have to do it again unless you ran out of propane or you shut your system off for an extended period of time. Now our oven down here at the bottom is going to be similar to what our burners were up at the top. You have a burner tube right here in the middle, but this knob right here, you turn it to the flame icon, but you have to actually push this knob down in order to emit that propane out to our pilot. And do that, we crank until that pilot has lit. We can see up under that first shelf right there if it's lit or not. Hold it down for about another 30 seconds. Then we let off our knob, turn it to the appropriate temperature, close our door, and cook. That burner tube should light up at that point. If your pilot went out, go back to that flame icon, push it down, then go ahead and relight, hold it down for another 30 seconds. That should take care of your problem. Now, even though you bled the air out of the burner up top, that stove, the first time you light it after bleeding air out, it's still going to take a little time for that to light. So just be mindful of that. We have our residential GE refrigerator, standard household refrigerator. You got your filter over in the back. It's a 110 unit, so it's going to work whenever you plugged in, whenever your generator's running. But what do we do when we're traveling down the road and we're not plugged in, obviously, and our generator's not running? Well, we have an inverter system we'll go over in a little while. Inverting changes 12 volts to 110, so it can run things like our refrigerator while we're traveling down the road. Now, keep in mind our inverter is only going to run as long as our batteries will allow us, but while we're traveling, our alternator on our engine is actually charging that battery system as well on the house side. Of course, we have our solar panels up there too. Normal operation on here, you can change temperatures for your fridge and freezer, filter status, water, ice, light, you catch the drift. One big thing to remember about this stuff is anytime we store our unit, we shut our system completely down, we want to make sure that we defrost this refrigerator before we do it, because we're going to obviously end up with ice and water and stuff in here. We have that ice maker. We want to make sure that we defrost all that, get all that water out of there, because if that stuff leaks out after it defrosts, it can damage your wood components around it. Manufacturers aren't going to participate in that kind of repair. So make sure we're defrosting it. Wipe down your fridge too. That reduces the risk for mold and mildew to develop in either one of those. Lastly, you're going to have that travel latch right there. Flip that on whenever you're in travel to keep those doors from flying open whenever you hit a turn. Right across from our fridge, we're going to see our CoLP detector down here, a little safety device. It's going to warn you of any CO or propane gas if it's leaking inside your unit, and give you an audible alarm so you can exit the unit. Have that little green light right there, lets you know it is powered on. This is hardwired into our 12-volt battery system, so it's going to stay on all the time, regardless of whether your disconnect's off or on, and alarm in the instance that it senses either one of those gases in the unit. You do have that audible alarm. You want to push that, test the audible alarm before you head out camping. Also want to know that we do have an expiration stamped on here, expiration date stamped on here. We want to change it out when that time comes around to make sure that it is still operational. Now, of course, you're going to have smoke detectors in here too, mounted to our ceiling. Those are going to be powered by that 9-volt battery. You can go by the rule, every daylight savings, go ahead and change that out. You want to test that alarm system to help keep you safe. As we go down our hallway, of course, that hallway is open where our shower is, but we open our bathroom door. That gives us our privacy for that area. We have our shower right here. Pretty standard shower. You have hot and cold there. And on our shower head, we actually have an off-on knob right here on that shower head. What that does is that allows you to help conserve water if you're dry camping. We don't have a place to dump our gray tank or a place to refill our fresh tank. So we're trying to conserve the amount of water we're pulling out of that fresh tank, putting in our gray tank. So in between lathering up and rinsing off, we turn our water off, right? Easy way to do that is just turn it off at our shower head right here, rather than going back and forth with our hot cold, having to find that sweet spot again. Just a more convenient way to do that. Travel latch on the shower, want to make sure we do that. This glass shower door, we want to make sure that we're not busting that while we're in travel. When we do take a shower and stuff, we want to turn that vent fan on in the bathroom, get all the steam out of here, and reduce the risk for mold and mildew in the bathroom area. Now, of course, that leaves us our toilet in here. We have our flush pedal right down there at the bottom. That's going to open that valve right there. Now, the thing about our toilet is we're only putting a couple things in there. Number 1 and number 2 when it comes to sewage, right? So number 1 is liquids, number 2 is solids. If it's liquids, hit that pedal, send it on down the drain. If it's number 2, solids, we need to go ahead and fill that bowl up about half to 3/4 of the way with water. And we do that by barely pushing this pedal down right here. That bowl will start to fill up. Then once it gets to that level, we can go ahead and hit it down, flush it. What we're making sure of is we have enough water in that bowl to help send those solids all the way down to the black tank. If not, we could run into some clogging issues. Besides that, we're only putting RV toilet paper only in there so it will degrade properly. And then we also have our RV black tank chemicals we want to put in there to help that stuff degrade and keep it smelling nice. In our hallway, we're going to have our main touchscreen control panel right here. So we're on our home screen. This will give you some of the same controls we saw right by our entry door, our light master on and off. We can also adjust our lights there. Same thing, we have arrows up and down. That means those are dimmable lights. So we can dim those lights if we wish. We have our thermostat right here where it tells us what our current temperatures are in our unit for the rear and the front. We have our water heater for electric and gas. And we also have our fresh gray, gray 2, black, and LP tanks. That'll give you the levels of all those systems. We also have our water pump, our tank heaters, our house and chassis battery levels, as well as our generator and our automatic generator start system. So let's go back to our electric water heater right here. We kick that on, that is going to turn on the electric side of our water heater. Pretty simple. If we're plugged into 110 or a generator's rolling, we can go ahead and use electric. If we need to go ahead and use gas, We make sure our propane is on. We bled the air out of our system, kick that on, and our gas will kick on. Now, no matter which one you use, make sure that water heater has no air in the tank. It is full of water. So to do that, we turn our hot water on at our sink. Make sure we have bled all the air out of those lines as well. Otherwise, that can cause damage to our heating components on the inside. Over here, once again, we talked about the levels for our tanks. We have our water pump. Our water pump is going to pull from that freshwater tank. We go ahead and click it on. It's going to pull water from that tank and supply it to all of our fixtures. Now, we use that when we don't have a city water connection. If we do have a city water connection, turn it off. Our next is our tank heaters. That's going to be a 12-volt mat on our tanks. That'll go ahead and heat those up in extreme cold temperatures so the liquids inside there don't freeze up. We talked about our house and chassis. That'll give you the voltage there. And then we also have our generator start stop, same thing as what we have in the front and the outside to be able to start and stop that system. We're also going to have our hour meter that's going to tell you what the current hours on that system are. Our AGS, our automatic generator start. Now we're going to go into that. We're going to have some more settings on here that we can talk about. So this is enabling our system. We hit enable. Of course, we heed our warning on there as far as if we are in any unventilated areas. If that generator kicks on, it is going to cause have some exhaust with carbon dioxide. We hold down that enable button for 6 seconds, come over here, and we can go ahead and change all of our settings on here. So what we use this for is if we store our unit unplugged, this can go ahead and monitor our current voltage on our battery, kick that generator on, and it will charge that battery up. So we can choose to start that at whatever voltage we want, 11.7, we can change it to 11.9, whatever. Have our time at start volts, which means that it needs to be at 11.8 for at least 60 seconds before that generator can kick on. That will go ahead and prevent it for if any high amperage items come on. It lowers that for maybe 10 seconds and then it goes back up. It doesn't kick that system back on right away. So we can change that if we want. We have our minimum generator run time. So that means that once it kicks on, because of this voltage being low, that system will kick on for at least 15 minutes and run, or it will run until this system gets to the proper voltage or our time at stop volts. So that means that it will either reach that voltage or it will reach our max generator run time of 720 minutes and then shut down. Our time at stop volts, that's going to be how long it's been at 13.5. So 13.5 is charging voltage. That is going to mean that your batteries are charging when that generator is running. So it doesn't mean they're actually charged. So basically this is saying, hey, I want my batteries to charge for 2 hours. If you want it to charge any less, then you can go ahead and drop it down, but 120 minutes is going to be your max. Your generator start retries would be 5. So that system would shut off at 5. Of course, we can go ahead and adjust that with the maximum, once again, being 5. It'll give you 40 seconds between every retry of that generator. And then, of course, we can set our quiet time right here on the side with 10 p.m. shutting off, 8 a.m. starting up, so on and so forth. We can change all that if we want. Once again, giving you your generator hours as well. If we want HVAC triggers, that means it will pull off of our thermostat. So we'll click over to our thermostat real quick. If we have our thermostat set to 69 and it is within a range away from that, like this one right here, we're at 77 in the front, that AC will kick on and go ahead and cool our unit down to 69 degrees, and that will all be based off of our auto generator start settings. So once again, we're still going to be running off of our run times, our quiet times, all that, but our HVAC will be the trigger for that system. If you want to do both, you can do both as well. So our next screen after our home screen is our electrical. Kind of the same stuff. We have our voltage for our system. We have our generator start, stop, so on and so forth. Our automatic generator start system, our triggers for both of those. Once again, it's all just kind of redundant stuff. We have our solar. It will give us the voltage coming into our unit, our amperage being pulled off of it, as well as our watts being pulled in from our solar as well. We do have that Go Power solar set up. On this screen, it will give us the same thing, our voltage, our amperage, our wattage. This will give us our status for our controller. At this point, there's no faults in our system. This will give us a history, as far as how our solar is operating over the past few days. And then we can also go into a setup. Our setup will allow us to change our battery type from AGM to lithium or flooded or gel. So depending on what type of batteries you have in this system, that is going to be where we change that, and of course our amp hours as well. Once we're happy and satisfied, of course we do have 2 batteries on this system, so we can go ahead and configure both. Once we're satisfied, we hit that return. It's going to bring you back to your main screen. I'm not going to take too deep a dive into solar. That's a whole nother ball game of subject right there, but this is where we can monitor it if we want to monitor how that solar is doing. Our next pad is going to be lights. Once again, a lot of redundancy in here with the same kind of controls, but it individualizes all of that stuff. We have our thermostat for our AC system and our heat. We have our rear and our front. Off to the right, that's going to be our current room temperature. The smaller number is going to be what we have it set at. Change that setting with the arrows there on the side. We have our cool option here for the rear. If we don't want that AC to cut on, we just turn that cool off. We have our fan option here. We can go ahead and kick on just the fan if we want to just circulate air, high or low. And then we have auto. Auto is going to kick that fan on and off when, according to what that thermostat wants to do. If our cool option kicks on, that fan of course is going to kick on. If we want that fan to run all the time, regardless of whether that compressor is kicked in, hit that high button, that fan's going to run all the time, or low as well. We have our front AC, going to work the exact same based on our cool, but we also have a heat pump on this system. That heat pump will kick on and basically it reverses the compressor on here. So you'll actually have heat come out of that front AC. Now this is only good for knocking the chill out of your room. This isn't going to bring your unit down to warmer temperatures. If it's 32 degrees in your unit, it's just not going to work. It's not going to keep up. This is more for around 50 to 60 degrees, knock that chill out. You can kick that on and that hot air will, or warm air I should say, will be coming out of the vents of your AC. Auto, high, low, all that stuff, same as what's over here. You can hit auto right here and that AC will cycle between cool and heat pump as far as what your current temperature is. So if you have it set at 69 and it drops down to 60, your heat pump will kick in. If it is at 75, your cool will kick in. So based on the different temperatures that you might have inside your unit according to where you are. Now your furnace on the other hand is going to be gas. This is what you're going to kick in whenever you have extreme cold temperatures. So if it's anything real cold, want to kick that furnace on, that is going to be gas activated in there. According to whatever our temperature is on our front, that will kick in. It won't have anything to do with our rear air here. That rear air is going to be on its own. Your front air is going to be your control for your furnace. So furnace is only going to work off at the front, but it will heat your entire unit. Vents, we have our bathroom vent. We can kick it on right there as well. So on this screen, we have our extend and retract for all of our slide outs as well as our awning. Now for our slide outs, our ignition needs to be off, emergency brake, it doesn't matter, just ignition off to be able to operate any of these items. Our last screen is going to be our settings screen. We have our mobile app. If we want to download that, that's that mirror app. We can go ahead and put our ID code in, our PIN number, and we can operate some of these items from that mirror app. We have network diagnostics. This runs through our G12 panel. And basically this just runs you through what is active on our system. Mainly use this for diagnostics. You can hit faults, it'll tell you if there's any faults in the system. Once again, not much to look at in here. That is mainly used for diagnostics if you're on the phone with tech support. So here we have our screen brightness. We can go ahead and change what that is. Clean mode, we go ahead and kick this screen off for 15 seconds. You can go ahead and wipe that screen and clean it without it actually going into any menus or anything like that. Of course, after that time is up, we'll have access to our screen again. Now here we can change Fahrenheit, Celsius for our temperature units. Our 4UG, that is going to be our floor plan on here. You don't want to go in and mess with any of that. We have our time that we can go ahead and change here as well for our appropriate time inside our unit. Of course, you can also change it to the military time as well. Below that control center, we have our inverter. So this is a Xantrax Freedom X. We have our battery voltage, and our initiation for this system. We do have another video that goes into a deeper dive in here, but it's pretty plug and play. If you're not plugged in and your generator's not running, you can go ahead and initiate this system, and then it will go ahead and start inverting and sending 110 power to some of your outlets in order to operate those 110 items. Now keep in mind, it's only going to last as long as that battery voltage is good. Eventually it will cut it off at a certain limit as to not keep your batteries completely dead. So keep that in mind. It is only limited to whatever 12-volt battery we have, whatever 12-volt battery voltage we have to supply it with. In our bedroom, we do have storage on both sides. We have storage behind our TV right there. We're also going to have our AC system up here. We'll have our ceiling assembly in the front and the rear for both of our ACs. And one thing about this is we do have vents here on the side. Those are quick dump vents, so you'll feel air flowing out of those if you leave them open. But if you want air to come out of your vents right here, you need to make sure these are closed. Otherwise, that air is not going to circulate all the way through your unit properly. So these quick dumps are opened up generally when you first get to the campground. That way it'll cool off this area quickly. Now down below your bed, you are going to have a 110 breaker system right here. We'll see everything labeled on our door right here for our 110 breakers and our 12-volt fuses. This is the first place we want to go if 110 or 12-volt items are not working on our unit. Check, see if anything correlates to our diagram there, and then see if anything's tripped or our fuses are blown. Now we'll notice that one little outlet, that one breaker down there at the bottom has that red switch. That is going to be our main GFCI. So all of our outdoor outlets or wet outlets or anything like that, that is going to be controlled by that breaker. And that stuff is more susceptible to tripping if something gets wet, or if we have too many griddles, coffee makers, stuff like that plugged into it, it will overamp. So if you come reset that and it trips again right away, just go out there, unplug some of that stuff, make sure nothing got wet, and then come back over here and reset it. This is also where our converter is located, which is basically just a battery charger. And you'll hear that little fan blowing underneath every now and again, which is perfectly normal, just helping keeping those electronics cooled down. Below our bed, we do have a little bit of storage right there. This is where that's going to be located. Under this bin right here is going to be all of our electrical and stuff, so no need to pop that open. We'll have wireless chargers on either side of each bed. You can pick that up, and then you're also going to have a USB port under there as well.
Well, we hope you found that resourceful, but wait, there's more information on our Great American RV YouTube channel. This channel right here, find the playlist Hap's Helpful Hacks. We go over different products in this unit, and we'll take a deeper dive with more diagnostics, more information, as well as helpful tips when you're out camping. Tell your buddies, tell your friends, like, share, subscribe, do all those awesome things on YouTube, TikTok, wherever you found us, and keep watching here at Great American RV SuperStores, where we bring the how-to you.